I fear that kids these days are watching horror content and true crime content more and more at an age that keeps getting younger and younger. More and more children are being involved in horror fandoms and becoming invested in true crime documentaries rated far above their age. This all kind of clicked in my brain when my mom's friend brought her son round and I was just talking to him. He's a kid. He asks lots of questions. And he goes, "Do you know who Jeffrey Dahmer is?" And I go, "Yeah, why do you know who he is?" And he goes, "Well, I watched the movie and I watched the series." And I was like, "You're 8. You are 8." And I kind of just sat there and I was like, "How do you know what that is? How do you know who he is, first of all? And why are you not being stopped from watching that?" Also, if you see me scrolling, I am looking at my bullet points because I can't retain this much information. Now, there is logic to why kids enjoy horror. It's a normal part of development. Like it's a good way for them to explore boundaries and kind of figure out their anxieties and fears. And it's common for kids to be involved in horror games like Roblox horror games or Five Nights at Freddy's. I mean, Five Nights at Freddy's was a big part of my childhood. I grew up playing it, but the audience for it now is getting younger and younger. And obviously, most kids have unlimited internet access, and obviously, social media does promote a lot of this content, and they can't control who's seeing it. It's out of their hands who they're advertising to because they can't see if it's a kid through the phone or not. Now, but why may kids be drawn to horror in the first place? Well, your brain releases endorphins when you watch something scary. You have adrenaline rushes, and I grew up loving the feeling of being scared from watching a movie. But the movies I grew up thinking were scary, they are nothing at all compared to what kids are watching now. Like, I grew up thinking Coraline was scary. I couldn't watch that. I had nightmares. And kids these days are watching like slasher movies, and I'm like, how are you doing that? How are you doing that? Scary movies can be a really good way for kids to kind of discover a coping strategy for their fears. Like, say, a kid's scared of spiders. If they sit down in their sofa in the living room with their mom and they've got all the lights on and the doors are locked and everything's comfortable, they will be able to kind of watch a movie about spiders and overcome that fear in a controlled and safe environment that they feel comfortable in. Kids are able to learn real life applications from horror, such as stranger danger, avoid dark places, like travel in pairs. If there's a threat in the house, you gotta leave the house, don't stay inside the house. And I mean, children love to rebel. If their parent or guardian is saying, "Hey, don't watch this," they become more curious. They're going to want to watch it more. And especially to have their peers be watching it at the same time, they might fear that they're going to miss out if they can't watch it when they're going, "Oh, but their mom's letting them watch it." It's like it's almost a compulsion to watch it, whether they want to or not. They feel the need to just to fit in, which is obviously tragic. Now, obviously, kids like horror. That you can kind of brush over that and not be too concerned. But I feel like more and more kids are being involved in true crime, not involved physically, but in like Reddit Reddit posts and kind of just online social presences. They are getting involved in more and more real things. And obviously, true crime can help kids develop critical thinking skills, and it can be fairly common for kids to have an interest in true crime. I mean, problem solving, mystery, it's kind of got all the elements that a kid likes because kids are curious. They ask a lot of questions, and if they're watching something that's having all their questions answered, they're going to be interested in that. I feel like that makes a lot of sense. Although, I feel like an obsession or like an unhealthy amount of watching can lead to anxiety and a distorted perception of the world. And to be fair, a child could easily develop agoraphobia. They're watching something about something that's happened outside, especially if it's something that's near to them. I remember when I was little, I heard about like Fred and Rose West, and that's not too far from me. And I remember bricking it because I was like, that's near me. Stuff like that still happens, and the fact that it's local as well, it gives you a bigger sense of fear. I feel like I must bring up the importance of parents monitoring their kids' media presence. And obviously, if they find anything their kids should not be watching, they should direct them towards more age appropriate content. Depending on how old they are, the parents must pick what they feel is fitting, as long as it's not like an 8-year-old watching an 18. I feel like that speaks for itself. Now, reasons for interest. Exploring human behavior and the consequences of crime. It's easy for them to become interested in things like this, as well as human nature and motivation, because obviously kids, their brains aren't fully developed. They want to explore the world, they want to explore different concepts and different kind of ideologies, and it's easy for them to kind of get a hold of stuff like this, so it's kind of almost automatic for them to be interested, because it's not something they grow up on. It's something that will be like suddenly introduced at a point, and they feel like it's new. I should consume this kind of content. And obviously there's concerns for kids consuming kids consuming true crime content. Again, kids can develop a distorted view of the world and gain anxiety from it. Or, on the other hand, they could romanticize or idolize perpetrators, which is obviously insane. Yeah. And there's a small minority, specifically those that might not be as psychologically well, who may view documentaries and that as a how-to guide rather than information about something. They can view it as something that they should follow. Obviously, that's a very, very small minority, but it still happens, and it's still likely to happen. And a lot of kids will find it hard to distinguish fact from fiction. Fictionalized versions of crimes, such as movies based on true stories or movies that are completely made up for entertainment purposes, they might not be able to tell what is real and what isn't. And I feel like people forget that. Kids cannot tell what a real story is and what isn't. If it's based on a true story and the parent knows that this true story has already happened, they can easily direct their kid away from it. But you never know what's based on a true story unless it's. I feel like it's weird at the end of the movie they'll tell you it's based on a true story rather than at the start. That really annoys me. And I'm not even a kid. Now, this was kind of like my main topic for the video. That was kind of all introduction, and I'm sorry for making you sit through 8 minutes of introduction. But this was the one thing that kind of made me like made the little monkey in my brain start running on its wheel and clapping its cymbals. And I mentioned the Dharma series specifically at the start, but I want to dive into it a lot further because this series was viewed by 56 million households for a total of 701.37 million hours. And it's advertised like you open streaming services and the most popular thing will be on a big banner right in front of you because it's popular. And it's easy for kids to see that advertised and not think any better than me, like, oh, well, it's popular, I'm going to watch it, because kids, they follow the crowd. They don't think like we do, okay? They're not that developed. And obviously, yeah, you have parental control locks, but there's no middle ground. You put on a parental control lock and it blocks. There's no middle ground. So it's only like Peppa Pig or Cocomelon, stuff like that. There's no space for preteens and kind of anybody around that age for their own section of TV. They kind of have either kid stuff or adult stuff. And it's easy for them to get a hold of shows like the Dharma series. And I really want to dive into why that was made, because I just don't think it should have been made, period. And there was a quote given by the mother of one of the Dharma victims, Tony Hughes. She told The Guardian that after seeing this show advertised, quote, I shed tears. They are not tears of sorrow, and it is not tears of disbelief in the Lord. The tears are tears of hurt, because it hurts. It hurts real bad. And she mentions how she doesn't understand how the show could be made. And I agree. I agree 100%. Creating a dramatization of something as tragic as these murders really makes my blood boil. I can understand documentaries, but creating a show that almost makes the event seem like an illusion, like it wasn't real, like it never happened, when in fact it did, and there were families that were affected by these atrocities. I feel like it creates a mockery because nobody realizes that actually happened because they're seeing it in the perspective of a movie rather than a documentary. That's why I hate dramatizations. I hate them. I hate them. And another movie I would really like to bring up that just makes me itch. And it will kind of circle us back to the idea of kids being exposed to true crime. Is the 2019 movie The Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Vile? No, Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil and Vile. And this movie is advertised as a crime/thriller. And if you know this movie, you will be aware that it's actually a dramatization of Ted Bundy. And it's labeled as a thriller. What? Now, you're probably thinking, why is this movie so important? I need to bring it up. Because do you want to know who played Ted Bundy? I'll let you guess. So, it's an actor who's conventionally attractive and is featured in pretty much just kids' movies, specifically High School Musical or The Greatest Showman. He also has a very big fan base of young girls. Do you want to know who it is? It's Zac Efron. It's Zac Efron. Due to his large fan base of young girls, specifically just younger girls who grew up watching High School Musical. I grew up watching High School Musical, but there's still kids that are young and watch it now because it's a good movie, bro. High School Musical is great. Young girls obviously have internet to social media, access to social media, and if you're a fan of Zac Efron, you're going to use that to find more about him, and you're obviously going to see the movie. Now, due to his large fan base of girls, specifically young girls, a TikTok trend began, and it's always TikTok trends, man. Why is it always a TikTok trend? But girls began to pose as his victims using makeup to display blood, bruises, and bite marks. And I'm not here to blame the girls for it, not at all. Because I mean, they're young girls; they might not have known any better and might not have realized what they were doing. But obviously, using an attractive actor creates romanticizations of Ted Bundy's actions, and it kind of romanticized the creature that he was, which obviously, guess what, guys? That's bad. You shouldn't do that. And again, I just find this whole movie to be an insult towards the victims and the families who were affected, because that's crazy. I mean, why are you taking somebody attractive? Because the whole kind of thing about Ted Bundy was he was this attractive, charismatic guy, but that doesn't mean you should take an actor with a large fan base of girls and make him play Ted Bundy. But I digress. I feel like as more violence appears in media, dramatizations, documentaries, people have become desensitized to real life crime and violence. A study was conducted that youth with medium levels of exposure to violence had a much lower blood pressure when being shown violent content compared to those with a low exposure who had a higher blood pressure, which obviously leads to violence has emotional numbing. The more violence you consume, the less desensitized you like the more desensitized you are to it. It will get to the point where you're watching the news and you'll see something tragic has happened and you just kind of shrug it off. You're like, yeah, that's normal. I've seen worse, which you should not have that mentality. If you have that mentality, that's a bit wrong. I was going to make this video a lot longer, but I figured I'd talk about the other topics in a separate video because I couldn't find a big enough link. And I feel like they need their own spotlight because some of it I feel like I resonate with and a lot of you guys would resonate with. So I kind of just want to round this off. I just hit my elbow. I just want to kind of round this off with to all the parents out there, for you and your own child's sake, please just monitor the stuff your kid watches, because at the end of the day, you don't want them romanticizing murderers or idolizing perpetrators. And if they do come across horror or true crime that does scare them, you should reassure them and comfort them and kind of find a way to resolve it and minimize anxiety. And it's at the end of the day, horror, it's a genre for a reason. I love horror. I love watching a true crime documentary. I indulge in many, but I feel they are being advertised to a much different audience than they are supposed to be. And I feel like parents need to keep their kids clear of advertising, especially with movies with a lot of gore. And I'm gonna do a whole separate video on gore, because that is a deep dive. Just watch out for what your kids are watching. And now I just want to say thank you guys for making it all the way to the end of the video. Thank you to all of my friends that watched me record this over and over again and send it to them for feedback. I love all of you guys so much, genuinely, because I love a good yap. I love a yap, and I've had a couple of my friends say, dude, you are so good at yapping. I love listening to you yap. So that's kind of why I'm here. I just like to have a little yap. So it means a lot if you watch the whole way through. And now I'm going to say bye bye. So thank you very much. And monitor your kids.